Are you looking to strengthen your pelvic floor? Well, you're in the right place. Hey everybody, it's Dr. Joe and Sweet Sleepy Bear, and today I'm going to show you some strengthening exercises for the pelvic floor. So let's get started. So before we get started, you're going to need some equipment, just a big rolled up towel or maybe a small foam roll. I'm going to use my bolster. You don't need something this big, but I'm just going to kind of exaggerate the movement because it's a little hard to see when you're just using a rolled up towel, but you can use that. I'm going to use this. So the first exercise is going to be a super simple mini squat, but the big thing to help work the pelvic floor when you're doing mini squats is concentrating on your breathing and imagining or feeling those pelvic floor muscles engaging. And that's kind of tough because when you're doing exercises, you can't really see the pelvic floor muscles working, so you really have to kind of get in tune with that. And so sometimes that's what's great to go see a pelvic floor specialist to find out how to do that properly. So with the mini squat, when you go down, you're going to inhale and imagine that pelvic floor opening up. And then when you come back up, exhale and then kind of imagine it closing. So it doesn't have to be a big squat. Again, just minis. Feet kind of spread out, hip width apart, shoulder width apart, toes forward. And so I'm going down, inhaling, and then exhaling, coming back up. So really give yourself a visual, even if you have to, make the motion with your hands, opening up, exhaling, closing. I know that looks weird, but a lot of times getting that visual helps because again, those muscles, sometimes you can't feel them, you definitely can't see them, so you really have to kind of imagine those muscles working. As far as reps, sometimes I like just doing for time, like 30 seconds, and just do as many as you comfortably can. You don't have to go fast like me, just go slow and really focus on your breathing while you're doing it. So the next one is going to be sitting down. So go ahead and grab your rolled up towel, or I'm going to use the bolster. We're going to work both sides. This is, some people call them like a pelvis pull-up. I like to almost call this just like a modified or a seated hip hike. So if you've ever seen the standing hip hikes, working those glute muscles, this is just kind of in a modified position, so you're working that pelvic floor as well. So when you take the rolled up towel or the bolster, you're just going to sit on it, half of it. So I'm just going to put one butt cheek on the side so the other side can drop down. So see, it doesn't have to be this high. I just really want you to be able to see that I'm dropping down and then I'm hiking that hip up or pulling that whole pelvis up. So that's why I'm just making it a little higher so you can see it. Now, if you've worked up to it and you've done a lot, you can do a little bit higher, but you're definitely working harder the higher the height is. So, coming up, really kind of pull up with that pelvic floor and then back down. So these again are a little tougher than they look. So maybe just start off with a few of them and then work your way up. This is my weaker hip, so sometimes I have to kind of get it in place and really let it drop down and then come up. So you can see my foot's just kind of sitting there. I'm dropping down and coming up with my hip, and I'm working a lot harder on this side, so you might not see quite as much movement. Definitely need to work on these, but I'm not pushing off of my leg. My leg is just there to support it. So the next one is going to be kind of a modified cat-cow, or cat-dog is like what I like to call it. So you're going to be on all fours. And the biggest thing when you're working the pelvic floor with this, it's not going to be that full motion. That's why it's modified. You're really just going to work your lower back or the lumbar region. So it's not the big arches, it's kind of being here and more just tucking in or sucking in your tummy and then dropping it back down. So kind of coming in like this. It's not all the way up, but it's that modified movement. I'm dropping down and I'm pulling that tummy in, working those pelvic floor muscles versus the bigger muscles. So I'm coming in, kind of like trying to just straighten everything out, but working those core muscles and then dropping back down. So again, you can do this for time because you want to make sure you're doing it right. It's not a big movement, but you should be feeling it in that pelvic area while you're doing it. So down and then just pulling in. It's almost like a pelvic tilt when you're lying on your back, except now you're doing it this way, so you have to work a little bit harder because you're working against gravity. So the next one's going to be in long sitting, and that's just when both of your legs are straight out in front of you. Make sure, again, you're comfortable. Sometimes it's an uncomfortable position for someone, so maybe if you're in bed, you can prop up against the wall or the pillows or something. But with this one, now we're going to work our internal and external rotators in the hip and pelvic area. So it's a really simple movement. You're going to be doing the external and internal rotation with your foot, your knee, and your hip. So it's the whole leg moving with this. So you're just rotating out into external rotation and then rotating in into that internal rotation. So just kind of rotating back and forth, and that's working those smaller internal muscles in there in that pelvic area. Make sure you're going nice and slow. My knee's bending just a little bit because this is a little bit a squishy area. Sometimes if you can comfortably get on the floor where it's a little bit firmer, this is a better, that's a better place to do it. But just nice and gentle, rotating back and forth. It's a great stretch to work everything out, and it's really good to get those strengthening muscles of those internal and external rotators. After you've done those, if those feel good, then you can progress it into actually now moving the leg and adding in some breathing with that, because the diaphragmatic breathing, that belly breathing, is great for the pelvic floor. So when you are doing the movements, you want to inhale as you go out and exhale as you come in. So when you go out, you're going to lead with your heel. And so you're just going to slide it out, breathing in, then turn it, point your toes out, and then exhale coming in. So heel out, breathing in, toes out, breathing out. So again, if you just want to do this for time, you can, or if you just want to do a few of them, but make sure you're really focusing on that breathing too, because that's really going to help relax those pelvic floor muscles so you can strengthen those muscles. So there you have it. Those were some pelvic floor strengthening exercises. If you're interested in checking out some of my other videos, including some more pelvic floor strengthening exercises, click on the link up there. And don't forget to subscribe by clicking down there. I know, and remember, be safe, have fun, and I hope you feel better soon.